I never liked Times Square. Most people call it the crossroads of the world, the brightest heart of New York City, the place where every dreamer wants to stand at least once, bathed in the neon glow. But to me, it always felt wrong. Too much light, too many eyes, too many screens that never blink. A place that never sleeps, yet somehow makes you feel like something else is wide awake beneath it all. Tonight was supposed to be simple. Just a short walk from my hotel on West 45th, grab some late-night food, maybe take a photo to prove to my friends back home that yes, I'd been here, that I'd stood in the very place the world seemed to orbit around. But the moment I stepped into the flow of the crowd, shoulder to shoulder with tourists, buskers, and shadows that flickered just outside the glare of billboards, I felt watched. Not in the obvious way. Everyone's watched in Times Square. Cameras everywhere, strangers bumping into you, hustlers shoving flyers in your hands. This was different. The kind of watching you feel in your teeth, in the tiny hairs at the back of your neck. I told myself it was just jet lag. I'd flown in from Denver that morning, running on bad airplane coffee and the cheap adrenaline that comes from pretending to be a tourist in the big city. But as I passed the glowing red steps above the TKTS booth, I caught a reflection in one of the screens. Not mine. Not anyone near me. It was a man in an old black coat, standing too still, as if frozen while everyone else flowed like a river around him. His face was pale, washed out, and for a second I thought maybe it was just some ad glitching on the giant LED wall, a trick of motion and light. Then he smiled at me. Not at the crowd, not at the camera. At me. And the screen flickered back to its usual rotation. A soda ad, a superhero trailer, a grinning influencer selling sneakers. I stopped walking. Someone shoved past me, muttering under their breath. I glanced around, scanning the crowd for a man in a long coat, pale face, fixed smile. Nothing. Just tourists in Yankees hats, a group of kids doing a TikTok dance, a weary-looking cop leaning against a barricade. I wanted to laugh at myself. God knows I wanted to, but the thing is, I'd seen that smile before. Not here. Not in New York. Not in the real world at all. I'd seen it in my dreams. I didn't sleep that night. The hotel room was just 3 blocks away, one of those boutique places that looked classy online, but turned out to be a glorified box with fancy wallpaper. I lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the horns, the sirens, the low throb of the city. But louder than all that was the memory of the man's smile. It wasn't just a dream déjà vu. I knew that face, or at least I thought I did. I'd been seeing him in my nightmares for years. Always the same. A pale man in a long black coat, standing at the far end of a hallway, a subway platform, a dark street. He never moved toward me. He never spoke. He just smiled. And in those dreams, something inside me always broke before I woke up, like my bones had gone brittle, like I was about to collapse into dust if he took one more step closer. But those were dreams. Waking up was always the release. Only this time, he hadn't stayed in the dream. He'd stepped out. By 3 a.m, I gave up on rest. The city was still alive outside my window, glowing and buzzing like an electronic heart that never stopped beating. I got dressed, figuring a walk might calm me down. Maybe I'd grab a slice of pizza, one of those greasy New York things people swear by. But when I stepped outside, something felt wrong. The street was quieter than it should have been. Not silent, never silent in Midtown, but thinner, like the city had lost half its voice. The traffic was sparse, the sidewalks almost empty, and the lights. God, the lights! They were dimmer.
Times Square was supposed to blaze like daylight, no matter the hour. But as I turned the corner, heading toward the red steps again, I realized the colors looked muted, drained like someone had turned the saturation knob on reality. And the crowd, or what little there was of it, moved strangely. Tourists shuffled by, but their faces were slack, their eyes glassy. A man walked past holding a hot dog, but it wasn't steaming, wasn't dripping mustard. It looked like a gray rubber thing molded into the shape of food. Two women laughed, but their voices came out flat, monotone, as if someone had pressed play on the wrong audio track. Then I saw him again. Standing by the entrance of the subway, just below the glowing billboards, the man in the black coat. He didn't wave. He didn't move. He only watched me, that same thin smile carved across his pale face. And this time, the dream memory surged stronger. My chest tightened, my breath caught, and I swore I could feel the air getting heavier, like the whole block was filling with water. "Not real," I whispered. My voice sounded small against the city. "You're not real." But when I blinked, he was closer. Just 10 feet away now, on the sidewalk, though I hadn't seen him step forward. His coat shifted in the breeze, except there was no breeze. His shoes gleamed black, wet, though the pavement around him was bone dry. I backed up, bumping into a trash can. The sound was too loud, echoing unnaturally like metal in a cave. I turned, ready to run, but the street behind me had changed. The billboards were still there, but the ads were wrong. Instead of soda and sneakers and superheroes, the screens showed static, broken images, faces pressed against the glass from the other side, pale, twisted, screaming without sound. And every one of them wore the same smile. His smile. I spun back toward the subway entrance. The man was gone. The city flickered, just for an instant, and everything was normal again. Bright lights, honking cars, tourists taking selfies. A man in a hot dog costume danced badly for tips. A group of frat boys shouted as they stumbled out of a bar. Like nothing had happened. Like I'd imagined it all. Except my hands were shaking and my throat still felt like I'd swallowed ice. I ran back to the hotel, locked the door, sat on the bed with my back against the headboard, staring at the mirror above the desk. Because in the reflection, behind my own tired face, I swore I saw the corner of a black coat sliding out of sight. I thought about leaving the city. Hell, I even opened a browser tab looking at flights back to Denver. But it was 3 a.m, tickets were sky high, and besides, what would I tell people? That I'd been scared off by a bad dream on the street? That Times Square had looked at me funny? No. I told myself I just needed to prove to my brain that everything was normal, that I wasn't losing it. So at dawn, I went down into the subway. The station smelled like hot metal and damp concrete. The air was thick, vibrating with the rumble of trains and the murmur of morning commuters. I swiped my Metro card, pushed through the turnstile, and forced myself to breathe. Just a train ride. That's all. Millions of people did this every day. But as I stepped onto the platform, I felt that wrongness again. Not in the people this time. They looked normal enough. A businessman scrolling his phone, a couple whispering to each other, a teenager with oversized headphones bobbing his head. But the tiles on the wall, they didn't match. Some were white, some stained with age, but others, scattered in strange patterns, were black. Glossy, perfect black, like chunks of obsidian embedded in the wall. They weren't supposed to be there. I knew they weren't. And when I stared too long, I swore the black tiles pulsed, like they were breathing. A train roared into the station. The doors hissed open, and the crowd flowed inside. I followed, gripping the pole, telling myself not to look at the walls anymore. The train started moving. At first, everything seemed fine. Fluorescent lights buzzed above me, casting that sickly familiar glow. A kid chewed gum too loud, someone's headphones leaked tinny rap beats. But the windows, God, the windows, instead of tunnels, they showed nothing. A void. Not darkness exactly, but absence. The kind of emptiness that made my stomach twist, like the train wasn't moving through a tunnel at all, but floating in some hollow space outside the world. I tried to look away, but the reflections in the glass trapped me.
Not my reflection, not the passenger's. His. The man in the black coat stood in the window's reflection, smiling, though he wasn't on the train. He was outside, in that void, pacing along with us, step for step, as if the nothingness was solid ground beneath his feet. And for the first time, he spoke. I didn't hear it with my ears. It was inside, threading straight into my skull, dry and cold as cracked leather. Almost there. My knees buckled. I grabbed the pole, trying not to collapse. A woman glanced at me, then quickly looked away, the New York reflex to someone losing their mind in public. But I wasn't losing it. He was real. The lights flickered. The gum-chewing kid was gone. The businessman vanished. One by one, the passengers dissolved into that same pale static I'd seen on the billboards, fading like TV images turned off. Within seconds, I was alone. No, not alone. He was inside the car now. Standing at the far end, coat brushing the floor, face pale as bone, smile carved too wide. The train roared on, but he didn't sway, didn't move with it. He just stood, perfectly still, perfectly balanced, as if the world moved around him. And his eyes, God, his eyes weren't human. They were black, not pupils, not irises, not whites, just pure, endless black, like the tiles on the station wall, like the void outside the train. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run. But my body locked, frozen by that smile. The lights flickered again. And suddenly, the train screeched, shuddered, and stopped. The doors opened with a metallic groan. The station outside was wrong. It wasn't on any map. The platform stretched out into dimness, lit by a few sickly yellow bulbs. The tiles were all black now, gleaming like wet stone. And the signs, where there should have been station names, directions, numbers, they were only words scratched in uneven white letters. We see you. My stomach turned to ice. The man didn't move, but his voice coiled in my skull again. Time to get off. And without knowing why, without any strength to resist, I stepped out. The door shut behind me. I turned, panicked, slamming my palms against the glass, but the train was already pulling away. No driver, no passengers, just empty seats and pale lights fading into the black tunnel. The silence that followed was worse than the noise. The platform stretched long and narrow, swallowed by shadows at either end. The ceiling dripped with condensation, though I couldn't hear the drip hit of water, only the faint hum, like distant electricity running through dead wires. I looked at the tiled wall, all black, gleaming, endless black, and when I stared too long, my reflection warped across its surface. Too tall, too thin, too sharp. My smile widened, though I wasn't smiling. I tore my eyes away. They were benches, but they were wrong too. Not wooden or metal. They looked carved from stone, slick and shining, as if they'd been dragged up from the bottom of a river.
I touched one with my fingertips, and a chill bit my skin, sharp as ice. And then I realized I wasn't alone. At first I thought they were shadows, figures slouched at the far end of the platform, heads bowed, unmoving. But when my shoes scraped against the floor, one of them twitched. Slowly, a head turned toward me. It was a man, or had been. His skin sagged gray and loose over his skull, eyes sunk into pits, lips thin and bloodless. He wore what might have once been a business suit, though it looked decades old, frayed and mottled. Beside him sat a woman in a faded red dress, her hair falling out in thin, brittle strands. Her gaze locked on my own, hollow and endless, and for a moment I thought I saw my own reflection in her pupils, smaller, trapped, screaming. There were more of them, scattered along the platform. 10, maybe 15, all different, all ruined. A teenager still clutching a backpack strap, an old woman with pearls hanging from her wrinkled throat, a construction worker in a hard hat split down the middle. And every one of them was smiling. That same smile. I backed away, my breath quickening. "Stay the fuck away from me," I whispered, though none of them had moved. My voice bounced along the tiles, swallowed by the black. The air felt heavy again, pressing down on my shoulders. And then I heard him, the voice. "They see you, like I do. You're one of us now." I spun, and there he was, the man in the black coat, standing just beyond the dim glow of a flickering bulb, as still and pale as ever. I wanted to run, but there was nowhere to go. The tunnels behind me were black mouths leading nowhere. The tracks hummed faintly, but no train was coming. "Why me?" I managed to choke out. My throat was dry, my chest tight. His smile widened, if that was even possible. Not want, need. The figures on the platform stirred. A dozen pairs of hollow eyes lifted, locked onto me, their grins stretched wider, trembling at the edges as if their faces weren't built to hold them. And then they began to rise, slowly, painfully, bones cracking, joints creaking, movements stiff like puppets dragged by invisible strings. One by one, they stood, all facing me. The man in the black coat spread his arms like a preacher welcoming his flock. Time to join the others. I bolted. Didn't think, didn't breathe, just ran, sneakers slamming against the stone platform, heart jackhammering in my chest. The tunnel ahead was nothing but dark, but it didn't matter. Anywhere was better than here. The figures shuffled after me. Their steps were uneven, wrong, some dragging their feet, others twitching with unnatural speed. The sound of them, a chorus of scraping, cracking, groaning, chased me harder than footsteps ever could. I plunged into the tunnel, swallowed by black. My hands scraped along the walls, searching for any break, any exit. My lungs screamed, my body wanted to collapse, but terror pushed me forward. And then, ahead, light. Dim, flickering, but light. A doorway in the tunnel wall. Old, rusted, half-rotten. I didn't think. I just tore it open and stumbled inside. It wasn't a maintenance room. It was something else. The walls were brick but slick with moisture, etched with scratches that weren't letters but still formed patterns my eyes couldn't hold. The air reeked of mold and iron, thick and wet. And in the middle of the room sat a figure. Not one of the smiling husks. A girl. No, a young woman, maybe 20, huddled in the corner. Her clothes were filthy, torn at the sleeves, but her eyes, wide, terrified, very human. She looked at me the way I must have looked at her, half relief, half disbelief. "You're real," she whispered. Her voice was raw, like she hadn't used it in days. Before I could answer, she grabbed my wrist with shaking fingers. Her nails dug into my skin, grounding me in that freezing, stinking room, reminding me this wasn't a dream I could shake off. "You shouldn't have gotten off the train," she whispered again, her voice trembling. I swallowed, chest heaving, and forced out words. "I didn't have a choice. He made me." Her eyes widened. For a second I thought she might scream. Instead, she shook her head furiously, strands of filthy hair sticking to her cheeks. "You saw him." Not a question. I nodded. My throat was too dry to speak. Her face twisted. Fear, anger, pity, all in one. "They don't usually show themselves this soon. You must have caught his eye." I sank against the opposite wall, my legs weak. The stone was damp, the air so heavy I could barely breathe. My mind was still buzzing with the image of those grinning husks on the platform. What the hell is this place? What's happening to me? She hugged her knees, rocking slightly. For a moment I thought she wouldn't answer. Then, in a voice small and hoarse, she said, "You've slipped through. That's what my brother called it. Slipped through the seams." "The seams?" She nodded. "The city. It's not just one city. There are cracks, places where the walls between here and there are thinner. Most people never see it."
Most never notice, but sometimes, she trailed off, her gaze dropping to the floor. Sometimes it notices you. Her words slid into me like ice water. "You mean him?" Her eyes flicked back up to mine, wide and haunted. She didn't say his name. Maybe she couldn't. But the silence was answer enough. I pressed my palms to my face, trying to think, to wake up, to make sense of anything. Those people out there, the ones on the platform, what are they? Her lip trembled. They were like us once. The image of the gray-skinned man in the ruined suit flashed in my head. The woman with pearls, the teenager with the backpack, all of them smiling. "They change," she whispered. "The longer you stay, the more it takes. Your face goes first, then your voice, then everything else." My stomach twisted. "Jesus Christ!" Her eyes glistened in the dim light. "I've been here a week." That hit harder than anything. A week in this nightmare. Still human, barely. How are you still okay?" She almost laughed, but it came out broken. "I'm not. I sleep with my hands over my mouth so I don't smile in my sleep. I bite my tongue until it bleeds, just to feel something real. I count the cracks in the walls so I don't forget numbers." I didn't know what to say. For a while, the only sound was the faint drip-drip somewhere deeper in the tunnels. Finally, I asked the question I'd been avoiding. "Is there a way out?" Her silence stretched long enough that my heart sank. Then, finally, "There's a way, maybe. My brother told me once, before he—" Her voice broke and she swallowed hard. "Before he was gone. He said there's a place under the city, a door. If you can find it before it finds you, you can leave. But nobody ever does." A door. My chest tightened. "And if we don't?" Her gaze flicked to the wall behind me, her expression hollowed, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Then you ride the train forever, or you stay on the platform until you forget who you were. Either way." She didn't finish. She didn't have to.
I leaned back against the slick bricks, my mind reeling, my body trembling with exhaustion and fear. A week, she'd said, a week before the smile took her. Did I have less? The silence pressed heavier, too heavy. I realized with a creeping dread that the dripping sound had stopped. The air grew still, and then a soft tap, tap, tap echoed from the tunnel outside. Slow, deliberate, like footsteps dragging metal against stone. Her hand shot out, clamping onto mine again, her nails biting deeper. Her lips moved silently, but I read the word even without hearing it. Run. The sound was getting closer. Tap, tap. A scrape of metal on stone, a pause, then another. It wasn't footsteps, not really. It was too slow, too deliberate, like someone dragging something sharp, taking their time, savoring each echo. The girl's nails dug into my wrist hard enough to draw blood. Her eyes glistened in the dim light, wide, panicked, pleading. "We have to move," she mouthed. Barely a breath, but enough. I nodded, my chest pounding so hard I thought the thing outside could hear it. We slipped out of the room as quietly as we could, every sound like a scream in the suffocating silence. The tunnel ahead yawned dark, but at least it was away from the noise. The dripping had stopped. The hum of unseen wires had gone dead. The only sound was that slow tap, 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 chasing us like a heartbeat. We moved fast, but not fast enough. The walls seemed to close in, narrowing, dripping with moisture. My shoes splashed through shallow water, every step sending ripples down the tunnel. The girl pulled me by the hand, her grip like iron. She knew where she was going, or at least pretended to. Behind us, the sound changed. The dragging became a scrape, then a shriek, metal clawing against stone, long and jagged, echoing until it filled the air like a scream that would never end. I froze, my ears ringing, but she yanked me forward. "Don't stop," she hissed. So I ran. The tunnel forked, one path sloping down, the other twisting sharp to the left. Without hesitation, she chose down. The air grew colder. Wet stone gave way to brick, and the faint glow of electric bulbs disappeared entirely. We were in the dark now, real dark, the kind that pressed on your eyeballs until you saw shapes moving that weren't there. The scraping behind us grew louder, closer. It didn't echo anymore. It filled the tunnel, like the sound was crawling through the walls themselves. "What the hell is it?" I gasped, my lungs burning. She didn't look back. "They call them Watchers." "Who? Not now." We stumbled into a wider space, a chamber deep under the city. The ceiling stretched up into blackness, vanishing out of sight. Broken scaffolding lay in heaps, half buried in rubble. Ancient bricks lined the walls, etched with those same unreadable marks, curving in strange, impossible patterns. And in the center, tracks.
Not like subway tracks, older, rusted, crumbling, swallowed by earth. They curved into the chamber and disappeared into another tunnel on the far side. The girl stopped suddenly, chest heaving, eyes darting. "This way," she whispered, pulling me across the chamber. But before we reached the other side, the sound stopped. The silence was worse. I turned, breath caught in my throat. The tunnel behind us gaped black and empty. Nothing moved, nothing scraped. And then I saw it. At first just a shimmer, like heat rising from asphalt on a summer day. But the shimmer grew, rippling, bending the darkness, until it took shape. A figure. Too tall, too thin, shoulders hunched, arms long enough to drag against the ground, its head tilted at an unnatural angle, as though its neck had been broken. And in its hand, not a weapon, not exactly, just a shard of metal, jagged, dripping black. When it moved, it didn't walk. It slid, jerked, like someone skipping frames of a film reel. 1 second, it was 10 feet back. The next, 5. The sound returned with it, a shrieking scrape that drilled into my skull. The girl clutched my arm so hard I thought she'd snap bone. "Run!" she breathed. So we did. We tore across the chamber, the old tracks groaning under our steps. The watcher's screech filled the air, the walls trembling with each metallic drag. I didn't dare look back, but I could feel it, sliding, jerking, closing in. The far tunnel narrowed, forcing us to squeeze through, scraping shoulders against wet brick. My breath came ragged, vision swimming. Behind us, the scraping grew louder. Too close. The girl yanked me harder. "Don't let it touch you." "What happens if—" "Don't!" Something sharp grazed the back of my shirt. I screamed, stumbling forward. My spine felt like ice had been poured down it. For a split second, my muscles locked, my smile twitching at the corners of my mouth. But then I ripped free, stumbling after her. We burst into another tunnel, this one slanting upward. Faint air drifted down, fresher, thinner, carrying with it the faintest traces of the city above. Exhaust, fried food, rain-soaked concrete. Freedom! I nearly laughed. My chest ached, my legs screamed, but I felt it, salvation just ahead. But then her hand pulled me sideways, jerking me so hard I almost fell. "Not that way," she hissed. "It's a trap." I froze, panting, staring up the incline where that ghost of daylight shimmered. "What the hell are you talking about? That's the surface!" Her eyes blazed wide and fevered in the dark. "No, that's what it wants you to see." The scraping shriek came again, closer now, rattling the tunnel walls. Dust rained from the ceiling. My body screamed at me to run upward, toward that glow, toward escape. But her grip on me was iron, her voice desperate. "My brother went that way," she said, her words tumbling fast, ragged. "He swore he saw the sky. I begged him not to, but he ran anyway, and when he touched the light—" Her voice broke. She shook her head violently, her nails digging into my skin. "He never screamed. He just smiled." The scraping was louder, too close. My chest felt like it would explode. "Then where?" I choked. Her eyes darted to the right, a narrow slit in the wall I hadn't even noticed, barely wide enough for a person. The bricks around it were etched with the same impossible symbols, twisting and curving like veins of fire frozen in stone. She whispered, "The seams, the door could be close, but we have to go through there." I stared at the slit. It looked less like a doorway than a wound in the wall, raw and waiting. "You want me to crawl into that?" I said, voice cracking. She nodded once, hard. The scraping screamed, so loud it felt like knives in my ears. The wall shook. The watcher was almost here. The glow above brightened, pale and inviting, spilling faint gold onto the damp brick. My heart lunged toward it, my legs twitching to run. It looked so real, so safe. But her words clung to me, sticky and cold. He never screamed. He just smiled. The scraping shrieked, exploded behind us, and the walls cracked, dust cascading. The watcher was there, sliding into the chamber, its broken head tilting, its jagged metal dragging a trail of sparks across the stone. My body went cold. My smile twitched, unbidden. I had to move. I didn't remember walking there. 1 second I was at the foot of the staircase, trembling.
The next, I stood in front of it. The door. It wasn't supposed to be there. Not in this world, not in any blueprint. It stood at the very end of the hallway on the 13th floor. There was no 13th floor. The door was black, charred almost, like it had been pulled out of a fire. And it pulsed. I swear to God, it pulsed like a living thing. A slow throb. Almost like a heartbeat. I don't know how I knew, but I did. This was it. This was the way out, or in. The exit. The truth. The final answer to the nightmare I had been trapped in since I set foot in the Blue Crescent. And I also knew, without a doubt, it would cost me something I couldn't afford to lose. There was a note taped to the wall next to it. Old-fashioned, yellow paper. The handwriting looked like it was scratched into the page by someone shaking. It read, "Choose wisely. One door. One truth. But truth hunts too. Payment is always taken."
I reached out to touch the door. It was warm, like skin. No, not just warm, feverish. I felt something on the other side shift, like it felt me too. "Don't!" came a voice from behind me. I spun. It was him again, the man in the suit. Only now, he wasn't a man anymore. His face had melted into something gray and shapeless, like clay left in the rain. His eyes were hollow sockets. His voice wrong, like two people speaking at once. "You're not supposed to be here," he said, though his lips didn't move. "I just want to get out," I whispered. He tilted his head. The sound of bones cracking echoed down the hall. "Out is relative," he said. "You open that door, you don't come back. Not all of you." "What does that mean?" He took a step forward, and the lights above flickered and died. We stood in pitch darkness. The only light now was coming from the door, that pulsing red glow. "It means," he said, "that every truth has a price, and this one wants something deep, something you love, something you'll never get back." I thought of my mother, her laugh, her voice, her hand brushing hair out of my eyes when I was sick. I thought of Sarah, my little sister. She was still alive, somewhere in the real world, still waiting for me to come home. I thought of all the memories that made me, me. The man took another step forward. He was close now. I could smell him. Not sweat, not rot, just void. Like he carried a piece of the vacuum inside him. "You open that door," he whispered, "and maybe you find your way back. Maybe you learn why you were chosen. Maybe you even leave this place. But it will take something from you. It always takes." "And if I don't?" I asked. He smiled, or at least something in his face bent upward, like it was trying to smile. "Then you stay here, forever, until this place wears you down to nothing, until you become like me." I looked at him, really looked at him. He wasn't a demon, he wasn't a monster. He was a man who had chosen, and he had paid. His eyes, those hollow pits, told me everything. He had once stood where I stood, and he opened the door, and the door had taken everything. I turned back to it. My hand was still resting on its surface. It throbbed faster now, like it was excited, like it knew I was close. I heard whispers from behind it, voices. Some I recognized, some I didn't.
My mother's voice, my father's, even Sarah's. "Come on in," they cooed. "We're waiting." Tears welled in my eyes. "I don't know what to do," I whispered. But deep down I did. I knew I couldn't live like this, not knowing, not trapped. I also knew I'd never forgive myself if I lost them. But maybe, just maybe, I could bargain. "I'll open it," I said. The man stepped back. "But I choose what it takes." There was silence. Even the door seemed to pause. Then, a low chuckle. "You don't choose," the man said. "It does." I took a deep breath, and I opened the door. I felt it before I stepped fully through. The door wasn't just a barrier, it was a skin, a membrane separating one reality from another. My fingers pressed against it, and I felt it pulse faster, like a heartbeat matching my own. One step, and it opened like water, swallowing me whole. The world changed immediately. The hallway I was standing in vanished. The air thickened, not from damp or dust, but from something alive. I stumbled onto a floor that felt like stone, but soft, like it breathed beneath me. The walls were impossible, liquid black, reflecting not my own face, but fragments of memories I didn't recognize. My mother's voice, my father's laugh, Sarah's giggle, but twisted, echoing from nowhere. The girl was beside me, clutching my arm. Her grip was cold, stronger than ever. "Welcome. This is the in-between." I swallowed. "This isn't real," I said. My voice sounded strange to me, hollow, echoing from nowhere. She shook her head. "It's real enough to kill you." We moved forward. The floor beneath us seemed endless, stretching into a horizon of shadows. Shapes shifted in the darkness. Some whispered my name. Others showed faces I had never seen but felt familiar, like memories stolen before I could hold them. And then the first price came. I felt it in my chest first, a pressure, subtle, almost teasing, a flicker of pain, then absence. What is this?" I whispered. My heart stuttered. She didn't answer immediately. She lowered her head. "It takes something you love first, something that anchors you. It decides what you can't live without." I froze. I felt my memory of my mother, warm and bright, slip through me like water. A laugh gone, a touch erased. I clutched my chest, panic surged. "Your mind will try to hold on to it, but it's already gone." And then a voice, soft, melodious, like honey dripping over glass. "Do you want to continue?" I turned. A figure emerged from the darkness, tall, thin, impossibly smooth. Its face was featureless, a blank canvas that somehow watched me. It held nothing in its hands, yet I could feel 1,000 tiny needles pressing against my skin. I nodded, voice shaking. "Yes."
It smiled, or at least the surface of its face curved like a smile. "Then follow. But remember, every step costs." We walked, or I walked. My feet seemed to move themselves, drawn forward by some force stronger than gravity. The girl stayed beside me, whispering warnings I couldn't always hear. Shapes moved around us, shifting closer, teasing, brushing against my clothes, whispering names.
Every step stole something, not objects, not money, memories, senses, pieces of my soul. I remembered myself less with every pace. By the time we reached the next chamber, I barely remembered my own face. My hands looked foreign, my voice was no longer mine. And yet, some instinct kept me moving, some primal need to survive. The girl's face was pale. She put her hand to my cheek. "You're doing it. You're surviving. But the door—" The sound started before she could finish. A scraping, a familiar soul-cracking screech. The Watcher, or something worse, had found us. The in-between shifted violently. Shadows coalesced into forms I could almost recognize. The hollow figures from the platform, their grins wide, their bodies stretching impossibly. But they were not them. They were hunters now, predators. They knew we were fragile, incomplete, bleeding pieces of ourselves into this world. We ran. Every step a cost, every breath a piece of my old life falling away. I could feel the door behind me somewhere, pulsing, beckoning, offering freedom, but only if I survived to claim it. And then the girl whispered, her teeth clenched. "This is why no one comes back. You think the door gives you a chance, but it doesn't give. You take, and it remembers." I nodded. I didn't have a choice. The chase had begun. The floor pulsed beneath my feet, not stone, not earth. It throbbed, alive, like the world itself was breathing. The Watcher was behind us, or them, or it, whatever it was, had no name. A ripple in the darkness, dragging the shadows of every face I had ever known. Grins stretched too wide, limbs bent wrong, all moving in one terrifying rhythm toward me. I ran. Every step tore a memory loose from my mind. Faces blurred, names vanished. My mother, my sister, my childhood, the details I clung to, frayed like old paper in rain. The girl ran beside me, silent except for the shallow gasps of her own fading humanity. I reached for her hand, but my own hand felt strange, foreign. Fingers pale, thin, not mine, not really. "Keep moving," she shouted, but her voice sounded like a whisper through water. We turned a corner, and the in-between shifted again. The walls pulsed with light and darkness, liquid shadows stretching upward, faces pressed into the black like memories trapped behind glass. Some whispered my name. Some mimicked my voice. "Don't listen," she yelled, grabbing me. "They want you to hesitate." I forced myself forward. The Watcher's scream, more felt than heard, followed. The air vibrated with it. I felt it in my chest, a hunger, a clawing, urging me to slow down, to let go. Every step I took cost me. Not my life yet, but pieces of myself, my laughter, my memories, the way my own name sounded in my mind. Ahead, I saw a faint glow, the door somewhere in the distance, pulsing like a heartbeat. Freedom? Truth? Or another trap? I pushed forward, ignoring the pain in my chest, the missing pieces of myself. The Watcher lurched closer, its form rippling, stretching impossibly, one jagged arm reaching toward me. The girl screamed, "Jump!" We were at the edge of a void, a space so black it felt like swallowing the universe. The door hung on the far wall, suspended, pulsing faster now, like it knew we were close. I looked at her. What happens if I fall? Her eyes glimmered with tears I didn't recognize. You die here, or worse, you become like them, empty, smiling, lost forever. I took a deep breath. The Watcher's claws grazed my shoulder. Pain lanced through me, cold, sharp, icy fire. Something screamed inside my head. Memories, pieces of my very self shattered and spilled into the void. I grabbed the girl's hand. She clutched mine, thin fingers trembling. "No!" she screamed. We jumped. Time slowed, or maybe reality did. The void stretched around us, black and infinite. The Watcher's scream followed, echoing, twisting, gnawing at the edges of my mind. I felt my soul stretch, the pieces of myself I had lost during the chase pulling at me from the darkness. My body burned, my memory burned. And then, the door. It was closer now. I could feel the pull, the warmth, the heartbeat that was mine and not mine at once. I reached for it. My fingers brushed the surface. It was alive, pulsing, responding. The door took. I felt it take the girl first. Her eyes met mine, wide, terrified, pleading. And then she screamed, a sound that ripped my chest apart, and she vanished. The price had been paid. I staggered, gasping. The Watcher shrieked, and I felt its presence vanish. The pull of the door stronger now, demanding my turn. I pressed my hands fully to it, and it opened. I fell through. I fell through, not into light, not into safety. I landed on stone, cold and sharp, and the air was still, heavy, pregnant with silence. Around me, nothing. No walls, no ceiling, just a vast emptiness that shimmered faintly like water at night. And then I felt it. The door was behind me, pulsing once, twice, then still. It had taken. I looked at my hands, pale, unfamiliar, trembling, not my hands. I tried to speak, my voice caught in my throat. Words wouldn't form, not the words I knew, not my voice, only a hollow echo that wasn't me. And then I remembered the girl, the Watcher, all the shadows chasing me, all the memories lost in the in-between. They hadn't died. They had become part of the door's hunger. Each step I took, each moment I survived, it had claimed something from me. The air around me shifted. Shapes appeared, faint outlines, faces from my life, warped and distant, smiling, frozen. My mother, my sister, friends I no longer remembered. They weren't alive. They were tokens, payment the door demanded for passage. I tried to move, tried to run, but my body didn't feel like mine. Every instinct screamed in confusion. A voice came not from around me, but from inside me. You wanted freedom? You wanted the truth? This is the cost. I understood. The door didn't just take memories, it took identity. Every choice, every life I had touched, every bond I had carried, it consumed and replaced me with this, hollow, alive, but not me. I could feel the final pull, the last thread of who I had been slipping. My heart clenched. I had a choice. Take it fully, step into the world above as a stranger to myself, free but no longer me, or reject it, stay in the void, keep what remained of myself and vanish, forgotten as the door closed behind me. I hesitated only a moment, and then I stepped forward. Light exploded around me, blinding, burning, hot and cold at once. The air roared, shapes dissolved into nothing. I felt the emptiness of the in-between vanish, the pull of the door receding. I landed on solid ground.
Rain, concrete, the world above. New York, Times Square. The city buzzed around me, neon lights flickering, taxis honking. People moved past, unaware. But when I looked at my reflection in a puddle, it wasn't me, not really. Pale, unfamiliar, eyes wide with memory I no longer owned. I remembered being afraid, but not what I had been afraid of. I had survived, I had escaped, but I had paid. The door's pulse lingered in my chest, faint, a reminder of the price. I walked into the crowd. Everyone around me was alive, oblivious, and I knew something terrible. I had survived the in-between, but I had been hollowed out. I was free, and I was nothing. The neon lights reflected in my empty eyes, and somewhere, deep beneath the city, the door pulsed once more, waiting, hungry, patient.